A local cardiologist is seeing more cardiovascular issues as a long-term side effect of COVID-19. I'm Zach Dodge with what a local long hauler has gone through. Coming up.
President Biden says his vaccine mandate will help the economy, but it first has to survive legal challenges in court. I'm David Lee Miller in New York. The details coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Abbey. Police are looking for a suspect after the death of a 50-year-old Marionville, Missouri man. Officers responding to calls of disturbance found Jess Davis dead at his home on South Central in Marionville. Police say Davis had what they describe as multiple laceration injuries. In a news release today, police say they're looking for Jamie Godry in connection to the murder. They say he frequents the Aurora, also Marionville area. Anyone with information should contact police. Authorities say he is considered dangerous, so do not approach him. The Central Crossing Fire Protection District over in Shelton, Missouri says first responders rescued 2 people from a fire. Crews were called out to the home in the Stallion Bluff area for a fire. When they arrived, they were informed that 2 people were trapped inside. A responding firefighter, sheriff's deputy, also a neighbor, took action. Were both able to rescue both people. One of the residents refused medical treatment. The other was flown to the hospital. In a news release, the Fire Protection District said, quote, "Our thanks to these men for their heroic and brave actions this evening that likely saved 2 lives. Authorities say they believe the fire was intentionally set." Nick Kelly joining us now with first look at the forecast. You can really feel fall now, at least in the evening time, Nick.
I know, we needed the break from the 90s, Jordan, and we got it with rain and thunderstorms this morning as our last cold front swept on through. Certainly was a lot better temperature-wise today. 64 this morning, and as advertised, a high of 85 degrees this afternoon. You saw on the rain gauge, too. Almost an inch of rain officially a drop, and we'll see how the rest of the area fared with rain here in a bit. But right now, we are dry on the radar network. I was keeping an eye on a few isolated showers or storms in northern Washington County, but everyone pretty much stayed quiet this evening. As far as where we sit right now, temperatures thankfully continue to drop. Lower to middle 70s right now. Quick look at the day ahead. Has us dropping back into the mid 60s. Most of us 66 to start the day out. But we're looking good for tomorrow, Jordan. Mostly sunny skies. Highs are 88. We'll check the rest of the forecast here in a bit.
All right, Nick, thanks so much. Freeman Health System's Webb City urgent care location was closed yesterday. Officials say it was understaffed. We asked Freeman CEO Paula Baker about the issue at today's Freeman COVID-19 briefing. Baker says it was an issue with scheduled employees not being able to work, not a health system-wide staffing shortage.
Freeman Health System has been very successful in recruiting all levels of staff, physicians, mid-levels, nurses. Is staffing an issue nationwide? Absolutely, and there's a shortage of healthcare professionals. But I do believe that Freeman has always fared very well in that competitive market.
Baker says the location was open for business today and that the Joplin location was fully staffed and open yesterday. Cardiologists sees a rise in patients with cardiovascular issues after getting COVID-19. Cardiovascular issues weren't as common as a long-term side effect until the Delta variant became the most dominant mutation. Well, doctors say most people make a full recovery. KOAM Zach Dodge spoke with a woman who may not be so fortunate.
A year ago today, 45-year-old Jennifer Parks lived a fairly normal life.
I worked 48 to 56 hours a week. I took care of 2 kids.
But since getting COVID in November of last year,
I have to be dependent on people.
She spent 33 days on the ventilator and then 2 months in the hospital.
I had to move in with my mom because I had a stroke. I had COVID-induced stroke.
And now things have been so much different. She can walk some with a walker and has a number of long-term side effects from COVID, including cardiovascular issues like blood clots in her legs and feet.
My foot was on fire, my legs, my feet were on fire.
Freeman cardiologist Dr. Robert Stauffer explains cardiovascular events are becoming more common for people with long COVID.
Whether they're 13-year-olds or they're 70-year-olds or they're 40-year-olds.
But something else he's noticing is, with many of them who didn't have COVID pneumonia or some other major complication, they're getting better.
And some of these patients, they got really sick, bounced back very quick. Some patients with this mild to moderate disease, they don't bounce back as quick. And the one thing I just tell patients is you got to be patient.
It's good news for Minnie, but unfortunately for Parks, since COVID hit her so incredibly hard, it's looking more and more like that won't be the case.
It's take this pill and take this pill until it stops working, and then we'll find something else. Mentally, it's a rough thing.
So she and her family laugh to get through the days and look at the positives.
You thank God every day that you're alive. I don't put off things because you never know when it's going to be your last day.
In Joplin, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Dr. Staffer says this is another reason to get vaccinated because, according to Staffer, most vaccinated people who get COVID don't end up with long-term side effects from the illness who are vaccinated. President Biden is defending his vaccine mandate as the best way to get workers back on the job. Fox News correspondent David Lee Miller has more now from New York.
Opponents of vaccine mandates got 2 wins in court on Tuesday. Judges in New York putting temporary holds on mandates for medical workers statewide and public school employees in the city. But other vaccine mandates remain in effect. And President Biden is defending his decision to enact nationwide vaccination requirements for businesses with more than 100 people, claiming mandates will help promote economic growth and accelerate the path out of the pandemic.
Vaccinations mean fewer infections, hospitalizations, and death. In turn, it means a stronger economy.
But it isn't doing much to alleviate hesitancy among vaccine skeptics. The U.S. is now averaging a little less than 800,000 shots per day, down 4% from last week. And a growing number of businesses and elected officials say they don't plan to comply with the mandate.
We're doing everything we can to keep our employees, our inmates, and our residents safe, but it's up to you to keep yourself safe also.
Meanwhile, as schools reopen for the fall, infections are increasing significantly among children. And schools have been forced to close in almost 36 states because of COVID outbreaks, putting increased pressure on the FDA to approve vaccines for 5 to 12-year-olds.
The kids have no protection right now, and we're at the most vulnerable point, I feel like, in this whole virus.
Children now account for roughly 1 out of every 4 new COVID cases, with almost 250,000 reported in just the past week. In New York, David Lee Miller, Fox News.
Taliban says it's bringing peace and stability to the Afghan people despite widespread reports of targeted killings and arrests. Fox News correspondent Trey Ying's got an inside look at a Taliban prison where officials say there is no fighting, no resistance to the new government.
We continue to hear these concerning reports about the Taliban targeting people who used to work alongside foreigners. Today we visited a prison that used to hold thousands of Taliban fighters and spoke to the group about their views on security in Afghanistan. Right now we are entering the Palisharki prison with the Taliban. When the group entered the Afghan capital, they came into this facility and freed thousands of their fellow fighters. These fighters came from the Logar province, and they said it was a 15-year struggle to take over Afghanistan, and that they're happy they now control the country, and they say they are bringing security to the Afghan people. As we walk through the prison, we meet Niaz Mohammed Halim, a man who served a 4-year sentence at the facility. He's now a top Taliban intelligence official. When asked by Fox News about Americans still stuck in Afghanistan, he responded by saying everyone is safe. He also denied new reports about infighting between senior Taliban leadership.
Everyone obeys the rule of the Taliban Emirate. There is no infighting. What we order here in Kabul is implemented in all provinces. That is propaganda of the enemy.
It's important to remember when the Taliban says they are bringing security to the Afghan people, that security comes at an extremely high price. The group has implemented Sharia law, announcing that men and women can no longer work together. We've also seen they've banned music and even executed people in more rural parts of the country. In Kabul, Trey Ying's, Fox News.
Missouri Governor Mike Parson has ordered U.S. and Missouri flags flown at half-staff tomorrow. The day U.S. Marine Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz is going to be laid to rest. Schmitz was killed in the line of duty in Afghanistan. He was a native of Wentzville, Missouri. KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time now to honor another four-state hero, Howard Hudeshelt, served in the U.S. Army from 1943 to 46. Native of Humboldt, Kansas, Hudeshelt was stationed in Burma, earning several awards, including the World War II Victory Medal. And we are proud to thank and salute Staff Sergeant Howard Hudeshelt. He's tonight's four-state hero. Nick Kelly's next with a complete look at the forecast a bit later. Former Joplin High School running back Nathan Glaze providing an early season spark for Missouri Southern football. Gonna have details in sports.
After quite a bit of rain and thunderstorm action this morning, we thankfully saw temperatures a little closer to normal today, something we've been asking for since the start of the month, quite frankly. But you saw on the time-lapse from Indigo Sky Casino and Resort outside of Seneca, Missouri, a quiet day. But before we got to that, we had to get through that inundation of rain and thunderstorms this morning. Rain and thunderstorms that started developing on northern counties yesterday afternoon and yesterday evening. Then the batch of rain out of Wichita plowed on through this morning. In its wake, measurable rainfall that I'm sure some of you were thankful for. On the average, half an inch across the area, but needless to say, quite a bit of rain resulting from half an inch to almost 3 inches of rain just from this morning alone. And thankfully, we've been sitting pretty quiet across the entire region. Maybe a couple stray thunderstorms earlier this afternoon around northern parts of Washington County and Osage County in northeast Oklahoma. But the radar, it is dry, and it's going to stay that way for the rest of the night. Not to mention the front, not only did it bring in some rain chances, it promised relief from the lower 90s we saw yesterday. It delivered just that. Mid-60s this morning, topping out around 85 in Joplin for the afternoon, but underneath quiet skies right now, 7th and Rangeline temperatures have cooled off quite a bit. 73 degrees, east breeze at about 5 miles per hour. Everyone's pretty much faring the same way. Lower in the middle 70s, but look at Iola. You're starting to sneak back into the upper 60s already, and that's where most of us will go as we head into the next couple of hours at the very least, and I think mid to upper 60s overnight as we continue to stay quiet here. The latest surface setup has the tail end of our front stalled just to the south, but it's going to wash out over the course of the night. I will watch this next frontal system though. I don't think it has a big impact on our weather, but it could try to make things a little interesting for Saturday morning. More on that in the moment. But in the upper levels, our last upper wave is pushing off to the east. We're just waiting though for the upper level ridge to build back in some form or fashion, because unfortunately we do have to go back into some late summer heat once we get into the weekend. But we are staying as quiet as can be for the rest of the night, and temperatures are looking pretty good. Middle to upper 60s for overnight lows. Most of us dropping back to 66 first thing in the morning, and the southeast breeze staying light throughout the day and occasionally shifting out of the south at times. But as long as that breeze stays light and mostly sunny skies remain up top, we'll go 83 by the afternoon and topping out at 88 degrees across the region. Okay, so we're thankfully quiet for Thursday. Friday looking quiet overall, but you can see that front to the north and west wants to stay mainly to our north, but you can see how it wants to fire off some rain and storms northwest of the region. I can't rule out a couple showers trying to sneak in here Saturday morning, but I don't think it'll be a big impact on the football game. So we're going to keep Friday dry and the football games dry as well. But in terms of our next stronger system, we'll have to wait until next Tuesday and Wednesday. Not only will that be our next best shot for rain, but it could actually make it feel like fall by next Wednesday, Jordan, with a low of 59 Wednesday morning and a high of 80 degrees. We'll keep our fingers crossed we can hold that on in the forecast. But the next few days, I can guarantee you, looking pretty good. Mostly sunny and upper 80s for highs.
So again, the official day of fall is
next Wednesday.
Isn't that something? I'm ready for it. All right, Kelly, we'll see you in a little bit. Thank you so much. Coming up, folks along the Gulf Coast cleaning up after yet another storm.
The cleanup begins from what was Hurricane Nicholas, as the tropical system also continues to dump rain on parts of the Gulf Coast. I'm Casey Stiegel in Lake Charles, Louisiana. More on that coming up.
People along the Gulf Coast are beginning to clean up from damage caused by Nicholas, but the storm is threatening to dump more rain on the region into Friday. Fox News senior correspondent Casey Stiegel has more.
Nicholas is crawling across the Gulf Coast, at times moving just 5 miles per hour, threatening to bring dangerous flash flooding to the region.
2 foot of storm surge underneath my house.
The storm dropping heavy rain over parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. The National Weather Service says some of these areas could see precipitation from Nicholas into Friday. In Texas, the cleanup is underway after Nicholas made landfall there on Tuesday. The storm's strong winds knocking over trees, fences, and traffic signs across the Houston area. Along the coast, high tides flooded homes and roadways.
4 inches of water in the downstairs. I was hoping it wasn't going to happen at all because we didn't get much warning.
This came up on everyone really quick and unexpected. We didn't have as much preparation time as we usually do.
Nicholas is one of several major storms that have impacted the Gulf Coast recently. Much of southern Louisiana is still recovering from Hurricane Ida 2 weeks ago. Some homes and businesses in Lake Charles are still covered in blue tarps. 12 months after Hurricane Laura and Delta came through last year.
Business owners are taking, this bad circumstance, this terrible hurricane, and not allowing it to get them down.
The National Hurricane Center is monitoring at least 2 other tropical disturbances out in the Atlantic that could eventually have impacts with the U.S. That's the latest from Lake Charles, Louisiana. Casey Stiegel, Fox News.
Next, reaction in the Golden State after California's governor survives a recall election. Efforts to bring about an early end to California Governor Gavin Newsom's term in office have failed. Fox News' Chris DeMeo has more on the embattled recall election results in the Golden State. Now, the dozens of candidates opposing Newsom are responding to their defeat.
Thank you for rejecting this recall.
California Governor Gavin Newsom still has a job. Voters in the Golden State deciding not to remove Newsom from office in Tuesday's special recall election, with more than 65% putting their faith in the Democrat.
We must all triumph together.
Even though Newsom secured an overwhelming victory against 46 recall candidates, the race was highly contentious among voters.
I'm a small business owner, and over last year I was considered non-essential. So I was shut down, whereas other states I could have been operating. So I was excited for the recall, and I did vote to recall Newsom.
I am disgusted by some of the Republican candidates and what's happening in our country, so I want to support Gavin Newsom, and I voted no.
Conservative radio show host Larry Elder led the pack of recall rivals, and while addressing his supporters, asked them to respect the outcome of the election.
My opponent, Governor Gavin Newsom, come on, let's be gracious in defeat. We may have lost the battle, but we are going to win the war.
Meanwhile, other candidates like Republican Caitlyn Jenner couldn't help but express their disbelief.
He didn't do this recall, on not one of his successes, because he doesn't have any. And I can't believe that this many people actually voted to keep him in office. It's a shame.
Gavin Newsom is now the 4th governor in U.S. history to ever face a recall. Chris DeMeo, Fox News.
Coming up, companies giving out money to watch scary movies, but there's a catch. As the dudes in particular, if you're having a hard time getting a good night's sleep, blame it on the moon, I guess. New research from Uppsala University in Sweden suggests men get poor sleep during the first half of the lunar cycle. You listening, Nick Kelly? Or while the moon is in its waxing stage. Scientists analyzed the at-home sleep recordings from 360 men, 492 women as well, and found the men studied during the waxing moon phase had a more restless sleep with more time awake. Researchers believe this could be due to the light from the moon, noting that men are more sensitive to ambient light than women. All right, looking for a little extra cash ahead of Halloween? Well, imagine being able to sit around and watch horror movies ahead of Halloween and get paid to do it. Dish Network says it's going to pay a viewer $1,300 to watch scary movie classics, including The Purge, Carrie, It, The Shining, and of course, Halloween, among others. The catch, the network is also going to send along a Fitbit to track your heart rate. To some, that might not be a catch, I don't know. Now, Finance Buzz is also recruiting a horror movie viewer for the same reason and for the same pay. Jenny, who's directing the news tonight, she told me she always watches scary movies, so might as well get paid to do it, right? 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming your way.
Mental illness can sometimes be a difficult topic for people to talk about. I'm Chris Warner with how one artist is using his unique medium to bring a new light to mental health.
The director of the FBI responds to bombshell testimony regarding its failures with the Larry Nassar case. I'm Mallory Rivera in Washington with a reaction from some of the survivors coming up.
There's a new exhibit at Porter Hall on the campus of Pittsburgh State University, and it's focused on mental challenges. KOAM's Chris Warner spoke with the artist behind the exhibit, and Chris has more.
Jennings is not just a former Pitt State student. He's an artist and he's an art teacher at Porter Hall. He created the works now on display, which he calls Nature versus Nurture.
It started out from my own experiences, wanting to talk about, really understand what I was going through, and then it moved to kind of wanting to give other people a voice and tell their stories also.
Jennings is hoping that as people view the exhibit, it will open their eyes to those fighting mental illness and encourage those struggling to reach out.
I hope we can start that conversation. I hope people can go out and actually talk to someone about something I haven't actually been able to talk about.
Morgan Rexwinkle is a music education major at Pitt State. She also struggles with mental illness and has her own creative outlet.
When I am sad and struggling with mental illness, I let everything go into music because that's my life. It's been my life forever, and it just helps to absorb everything that's going on.
She says it's great to see how others express their internal battles.
I definitely think it's interesting to see everybody else's interpretation of mental illness and what it means to other people, because it can be totally something different to you what it is to me, you know.
Jennings says there's one key takeaway from the exhibit.
Before you're a man or a woman, before you're white or black, Christian or Jewish or something like that, you're a human being. That comes first before anything. And mental illness is something that plagues people every day, but it doesn't control them and it doesn't make them any less of a person.
In Pittsburgh, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
The exhibit will run through October 25th. City of Joplin is gearing up for its annual City Surplus Auction this weekend. The auction is going to feature dozens of items, including vehicles, tools, office furniture, computers, even a Christmas tree. It's going to start at 9 in the morning on Saturday at the Street Maintenance Barn, northwest of the Public Works Center on West 2nd Street.
Some of it will be in working condition and some of it will not be in working condition. So when the auctioneer lets everybody know at the beginning of the auction, you know, we'll start vehicles up, we'll kind of let everybody take a look at inside the vehicle, outside the vehicle, just make sure, you know, of what the condition is.
The full list of items can be found on the city's website, and the public can view the items in person from 1 to 4 p.m. on Friday. The Environment Protection Agency today began a cleanup project in Pittsburgh. The agency is working to remove lead and other contaminants from the soil of the East 4th Street field across from the old Mission Clay Products property. The site is also near Schlanger Park and several businesses. The project is part of the city's Mid-City Renaissance project to redevelop the area.
There really isn't too much concern about the area immediately surrounding it. Most of it is contained here on this site, and it's not the kind of material that migrates off the site easily. So there really isn't any particular danger. It's just to be able to use this site safely, you have to do some remediation.
The excavation and sodding is expected to take a couple of weeks to finish, at which point an EPA contractor is going to maintain the fresh sod for a few weeks to make sure it's established. U.S. Awards in Pittsburgh is expanding. A groundbreaking today marked the beginning of construction. The company is outgrowing its current facility.
These great educators that we have and giving them ideas and creative ways to keep kids engaged. You know, it's kind of old school. It really is. It's kind of doing the basics and the fundamentals, but we're really strong believers in that. So for us, it's doing small things and doing them very well.
This is the company's first expansion in 15 years. I hope it's going to lead to adding more jobs in the next year. Well, home buying appears to be slowing down. New numbers show August had the fewest competing offers so far this year. Nearly 60% of home offers by Redfin agents faced competition. That's a new low, by the way, for 2021. The technology-powered real estate brokerage reports that it's down from a peak of nearly 75% in April. One reason for the slowdown is bidding wars. Could be sellers and they're pricing their homes too high. Buyers just aren't biting. Powerful testimony from Olympic gymnasts on Capitol Hill today detailing the abuse they received from disgraced team doctor Larry Nassar. The FBI director and the Justice Department Inspector General addressed questions and criticism about how this whole investigation into Nassar was handled. Fox's Madeline Rivera has details now from D.C.
What is the point of reporting abuse if our own FBI agents are going to take it upon themselves to bury that report in a drawer?
Former U.S. Olympic gymnast Michaela Maroney joining fellow athletes Simone Biles, Aly Raisman, Maggie Nichols, and lawmakers in demanding answers regarding the FBI's handling of the investigation into longtime USA Gymnastics team doctor Larry Nassar. A Justice Department Inspector General's report reveals the FBI failed to act after first hearing of the complaints in July 2015.
I don't have a good explanation for you. It is utterly jarring to me. It is totally inconsistent with what we train our people on.
According to the report, while the FBI did not take action, Nassar was able to abuse more victims until 2016.
There are 120 people who would not have been victims.
We suffered and continue to suffer because no one at FBI, USAG, or the USOPC did what was necessary to protect us.
Just days ago, the FBI fired Michael Langeman, the agent who the Inspector General said did not properly pursue tips about Nassar. But many say one firing doesn't go far enough.
We've run out of adjectives, but we haven't run out of action.
Senator Blumenthal says he wants Justice Department officials to testify as well and is asking why there hasn't been criminal prosecution for the agents involved in this case. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
A bit later, what is being called toxic Instagram?
One of the most popular social media apps is harmful for teen girls, and that company has the data to show that. I'm Lauren Blanchard in Washington. I'll have more on a new report on Instagram and what lawmakers want to do now coming up.
We thankfully got the chance to cash in on rain chances this morning, and we followed up with a pretty good looking afternoon. You can see for yourself with the time lapse from indigo sky outside of Seneca, Missouri. We definitely had a good sunset this evening, sure, but we had to start today with rain and thunderstorms, widespread rain that we thankfully needed and thankfully passed on through, especially coming out of Wichita late last night and through this morning. That was our best shot for rain this week, and we'll have to wait or be a little more patient for our next best shot for rain. But in the meantime, half an inch of rain on the average, but you can easily see, follow the color coding up top, many areas between half an inch, almost pushing 2.5 to 3 inches of rain just from this storm system alone. A storm system that tried to fire off a few isolated storms earlier this afternoon in parts of Osage and Washington counties in northeast Oklahoma. In general, though, everybody enjoyed a nice quiet afternoon. We're still dry on the radar network and dry outside from 7th and Rangeline. After we saw highs push into the mid-80s as advertised today, we're sitting at 73 right now with an east breeze at 5 and the humidity not too terribly high at 71%. Temperatures around the rest of the region trying to sneak back into the mid to upper 60s already around Iola, but most spots are in the lower to middle 70s right now. But we're going to be close to where Iola is right now, mid to upper 60s for the rest of the area as we go into the overnight and Thursday morning as we continue with mostly clear skies here. The big picture shows the front that would pass on through as well to the east of us now, and the front that gave us maybe a few isolated storms in northeast Oklahoma. It's going to die out as the stationary front sits just to the south of the region. We got a quick front to the north and west that'll stay mainly to the north of us this weekend, but the main focus will be on how much this upper level ridge can build back in and bring some more late summer heat our way. But we don't have to worry about that for tomorrow, because we are looking at a mild start to our Thursday morning with mostly clear skies up top. That means overnight lows dropping back to 66 degrees, a light southeast breeze at 5 to 10 to start the day. Then we'll go to 83 by noon with an occasional south breeze at times, and pushing 88 for the afternoon in Joplin. And everyone else, let's say mid to upper 80s. That's looking pretty good, especially with lower humidity in place. As we go into Friday, though, that front to the north and west of the region is going to stay just to our north, but you can see how it wants to fire off some rain and storms near the Colorado-Nebraska line. While we keep much of Friday dry, there's a slim chance we could get a random shower or two from this batch let's say late Friday night into Saturday morning. We're talking about well after football. So that's good news for football fans in our sports department if they're snooping in on the weathercast right now. We're quiet for pretty much the rest of the weekend. Maybe a couple isolated storms on Monday, but Tuesday and Wednesday, that's our next best strong storm system, giving us not only better rain chances by Tuesday and Wednesday, but a taste of fall on the first day of fall. Hopefully 59 for Wednesday morning and highs near 80. We'll keep our fingers crossed that those numbers stay in the forecast, but overall, Jordan, temperatures don't look bad. Upper 80s Thursday and Friday, and even just near 90 for the weekend.
Not bad at all. Nick Kelly, thank you so much. Right. Coming up in sports, the Missouri Southern football team preparing ahead to Central Oklahoma, aiming for their first win. Also, Carthage hosting Mcdonald County in its home opener, looking to snap the Mustangs' 7-game winning streak. Jacob Leonard has those highlights and more next.
The Missouri Southern Lions are back on the road this weekend, aiming for their first win of the season. The Lions hit the road to Central Oklahoma on Saturday in Week 3. Now, Southern 0-2 to begin the season. Last weekend, the Lions dropped their home opener 21-17 to Northeastern State. Now, in that game, running back and former Joplin High School standout Nathan Glades rushed for 106 yards and a touchdown in just his second career start. Now, Glades and the Lions' rushing attack is one of the biggest positive takeaways for Southern through the first 2 weeks.
We faced two opponents and we ran the ball really well versus two opponents. Where we've got to get better is the consistency of running the ball. Being able to run the ball at a high level for 4 straight quarters. And part of that will be as we get the passing game going a little bit more, it'll open up some lanes for the running. But we've gone and we've two MIAA opponents and we've gone toe-to-toe with them. We've thrown blows with them and we've had success against them. And so now it's just raising our play, and the level of consistency is what we got to reach now.
The Mcdonald County softball team is on a roll to start this season. The Mustangs are 8-1 overall and enter the day on a 7-game winning streak. Now, Mcdonald County tries to stay hot today against Carthage. This one, actually the first home game of the year for the Tigers. Carthage scores first. In the second, Jordan Jones back up the middle. That scores Natalie Rodriguez. Tigers up 1. Next inning, check this out from Rodriguez in the field. Great diving stop. Makes the throw from her knees to get the out. Home team still up 1. Tied at 1 now in the 4th. Future Pittsburgh State Gorilla Madeline McCall gets the strikeout for McDonald County. Game stays 1-1 until the 6th. Jordan Jones back up in a big spot for Carthage with a runner on third. Jones delivers a liner to the fence and left. RBI double for Jones. And that was the difference. Carthage snaps McDonald County's win streak, takes their home opener 2-1.
Jordan Jones, she'd already been 2 for 2 leading into that game. She had the big RBI in the 2nd or 3rd inning that gave us the 1-0 lead. And there at the end, she had a great at bat, fouling balls off, and with the 0-2 pitch, drove one over the left fielder's head. I just knew if we could get the runner to the 3rd, we had a chance there. Put the bat in the senior's hand there, and just let her have a shot at it. And she took it, and she owned it there.
The St. Louis Cardinals have won 6 of their last 7 games. Now, their recent hot streak has the Cards in sole possession of the 2nd wild card spot in the National League coming into the day. St. Louis wraps up their 3-game series with the Mets tonight. And they're all over New York, 11-4 tonight at the top of the 9th. The Cards have 16 hits. Harrison Bader has a home run and 3 RBIs. Also this evening, the Royals hit the field for Game 2 against the Athletics. And Kansas City's won 4 of 5, including the series opener last night. This one's in the bottom of the 6th. The Royals down right now 8-5, but Salvador Perez has a home run, his 44th of the season. That's it for sports. We're back with more news after this.
It has Facebook under fire, showing the company knew its Instagram app can be harmful for teen girls. Now lawmakers are weighing in. Fox News correspondent Lauren Blanchard has more from Washington.
Glossy filters and a digitally whitened smile can get a lot of likes on Instagram. But according to a new report from the Wall Street Journal, there are also things to unlike. Facebook, the company that owns the app, knows its platform is harmful for young girls.
Internally, Instagram's research has shown that 32% of teen girls said that when they felt bad about their bodies, Instagram made them feel worse.
Instagram responding to the report, writing, "We stand by this research. It demonstrates our commitment to understanding complex and difficult issues young people may struggle with." Instagram went on to say they know social media can have negative impacts and is working to lessen them, giving the option to remove like counts and nudging users toward different content.
In the past, often when Facebook executives have been questioned about this, they've said that they believe the harm outweighs the good. And so now I think many people would like to see the numbers that support that assertion.
I don't think we need more information. I think we need regulation.
Senators Richard Blumenthal and Marsha Blackburn announcing they will lead a Senate committee probe into what Facebook knew about Instagram's effects on young users.
The more we learn and the more we investigate, the more concerned we are.
The senators said for their probe they already have a Facebook whistleblower and they plan to call more witnesses. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Next, a new movie looking at the life of Tammy Faye Baker. Heading to the big screen this weekend, the biopic The Eyes of Tammy Faye. It retells the story of the Christian community's fallen family. Televangelists Jim and Tammy Faye Baker. Fox's Ashley Dvorkin has more details about this film.
This is Jim Baker, my husband.
Jessica Chastain and Andrew Garfield transform into the first couple of Christian TV in The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
I was really excited to just dive in and learn as much as I possibly could. I got my hands on all the footage I could get, books, met people that knew them, that worked with them, just kind of did as deep a dive as possible.
God loves you. He really does.
The biopic gives an intimate look behind the rise, fall, and redemption of Tammy Faye Baker. It is based on the 2000 documentary of the same name that inspired Chastain to buy the rights and make a feature film to tell a more complete story of the late televangelist.
She's been wanting to do it for a long time. This has been a passion project of hers, and she was obviously very, very drawn to Tammy and wanting to honor her and create the character people don't know as well maybe as a headline or a spectacle or a kind of scandal in a gossip rag. So I think that was her intention, was to really give people a better feeling, a better, more all-encompassing, well-rounded view of Tammy.
The devil's coming for me, Tammy.
Can we talk about Satan later, Jim?
Garfield says portraying Tammy Faye's husband, Jim Baker, came with a huge responsibility.
For me, with Jim, he's still alive, and there was no part of me that wanted to diminish him or undercut him or undermine him, but to try and tell his part of the story in the most kind of honest and authentic way as possible.
This is who I am.
The film debuts in theaters Friday. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
That's our time for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Going to leave you with time-lapse video of the Northern Lights over Alberta, Canada. Be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.